Hi, I'm Richie.
I'm Jeremy.
And this is Week in Review with Richie and...
Jeremy.
Jeremy, this is episode...
23.
23.
Yep.
Look at that.
23.
Can't believe we're still here. Thanks to you guys, though.
You did something fun this week.
We did something fun this week?
You did.
Well, you were there.
You filmed the movie.
I
wasn't in the movie.
We produced the movie.
You said I could be in the movie, but I wasn't in the movie.
You got cut. You wound up on the cutting room floor.
I got cut. I never got in front of the camera.
We produced a short. We did.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that. 48 hours?
For the Cleveland 48-hour film project. It's a film competition that takes place in multiple cities. This one was for the Cleveland one. On 7 o'clock Friday night, we received the genre for our film, which was thriller suspense. And the line of
you say
dialogue,
we because it was Big Apple Studios.
Because it was Big Apple Studios, correct. Big Apple Studios, it was a Big Apple Studios production.
I like that.
Yes.
Even though I wasn't in the film.
Even though you weren't in the film. Anyway, but we shot it here in Circleville. Mm-hmm. You had 48 hours to write, film, edit, color correction, compose, paperwork, all that stuff, sound, and submit it by 7 o'clock Sunday evening.
Any cool actors in that?
We had
probably you, right?
Well, of course me, but still, we had the lead was Sierra Eggleton. We had brother Dwayne Edgington. Patrick Johnson, if you've walked into Kroger lately and seen the advertisement for for jobs, you'll see Patrick on there. He's an actor and model and whatnot and so what. And we had a composer, Jay Esquire, and new to the film industry, working on a film, acting in a film, was Robert Johnson.
And Stitch.
Oh yeah, and introducing Kaylin Stitch Boyd. Yes. Almost forgot about that one.
Hey, do we got somebody in studio?
It was directed by Telly Award-winning director T.J. Cooley. Yes. And this week, for episode 23, we have with us the COO of 4Jack and also one of the most outspoken people on city council, a lady who will bite her tongue for no one and tell you exactly how it is. Katie Hedges.
That was a really, really, really good introduction. That's probably your best one.
Thank you. I appreciate
Won't
that.
bite her
It
tongue.
was a compliment.
I actually agree with that. Katie,
It was a compliment. It was a compliment.
You are definitely one of my favorite council members, simply because I do believe that you can come in to council with an opinion on where something's going to be, and hear out other people's opinions and citizens' views, and I've seen you completely change simply because of information that you've gotten, and that's respectable. It's respectable to be a leader like that, to be willing to accept change.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting when you're in a position like that. You come in with an opinion, right? Because you have a personal opinion. But I think what people lose sight of sometimes is that you represent a much larger group of people. And sometimes it's not about your personal opinion. It has to be about what's right for the city, what's right for the constituents. And I think that's where it can get really gray for people sometimes.
See, I'm glad you say that, because I feel that a lot of city council members go with what they feel, or their personal opinion, or what their grandmother or the mother, or what the people at the church is going to say, if they make a decision that is best for the city, which is what they are elected to do. So instead, they just do one that they feel is best for them, or how their views are, instead of what's overall best for the city. And that kind of and I'm going to jump right into it here. That kind of goes right into this marijuana moratorium kind of thing. Yeah. I feel that the city council members are not thinking about the city first.
Well, we waited 18 months to get an answer tonight, right, Katie?
Yeah, tonight it finally came to a close tonight.
And what was the answer?
So there were 6 people. We had 1 absence on council, and it was voted down by a vote of 2 to 4.
Do you feel, and you don't have to answer it, I will, do you feel that it was their own person, that they put their personal opinions, feelings, and whatever backlash, so to speak, from their family and church members and whatnot that made their decision instead of them doing what's best for the city?
There's no doubt 2 of them did. One of them spoke very strongly about he was morally against it. And then, the rest is speculation. But I think that's what people lost sight of with that. There was so much discussion about, is marijuana good for you? Is it a gateway drug? Are, all these things. And that was never, ever, ever the discussion. The discussion was, are we going to let a dispensary come to the city? And that was really the entire crux of the conversation. And people really lost sight of that. And they forgot that it was passed in Ohio. It is legal. And it became more about, okay, well, is this the business that we want? And it's like, well, the city doesn't get the opportunity to decide what businesses do and do not come into the city. One of the big discussions was, well, how much money is the city going to benefit from by bringing this business in? And it's like, well, that isn't a conversation. There isn't even a platform for us to have a conversation like that when it comes to other businesses in the city. So why suddenly are we talking about that?
Right. Whether it's $10, $10,000, or $10 million, an income's an income.
Yeah, and I think on the heels of a income tax levy that passed last year for the safety forces, it's very difficult to look at the citizens that you asked to support this and tax them again, and then say, hey, we're not going to take the opportunity to bring this business in that could provide some sort of income stream to the city of Circleville.
And it brings them more of an income stream than a lot of other businesses.
But not just an income stream. What it would do is ease the tax burden on the citizens of Circleville. So in the past couple of years, and I know you've voted for both of these, was an antenna at the police station, which was going to be an income, not much money, but was that $25,000-$30,000 a year, and they turned that down. Meanwhile, there is an antenna at the police station,
and there always was at every juncture of that conversation. There was
right,
one.
Exactly, and the city turned down an income then, and now they're turning down an income from a dispensary, and the city turned around and pretty much cried, saying, and in my opinion only, threatened the citizens of Circleville, like, if you don't pass a levy, we're not going to be able to have safety forces. We're not going to be able to have an ambulance come to your house or a fire truck come to your house. Please pass this levy, which failed multiple times, twice before it got passed. And then still now you're turning down money. How can the city go to the citizens in the future, whether it be, hey, we need help to pay for this pool, hey, we need help for this, or hey, we need help for that, in good faith ask the citizens to do that when the city doesn't do its fiduciary duties of making sure that they bring in money to support the city.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, honestly, if you step back even a level, it really becomes about economic development. And I think in our business at Fort Jack, I think one of the guiding principles to make a successful business is that you stay fluid. And as the economy changes and as, the demographic changes and your customer base has changed, you have to change as well.
Right.
And, I think one of the things that we've struggled with as a city is there is a population of people that don't want growth. And that's an easy thing to say, but then you can't also say, well, I want a steakhouse and I want this and I want this, because unfortunately those businesses are not going to come until there are more rooftops. And that's a fact. And more rooftops means that you need more safety services and you need all of these things to be able to sustain that development. And yet when the opportunity comes, some people are like, well, I don't want that in my community. But again, to go back to the marijuana piece, what people lost sight of was it was coming to the community no matter what. And the question was going to be, who is the entity that is going to be able to kind of steer it into a place to say, well, we want it in this area. We want it to be, because I do recognize, is it something that I want right beside a school? No, it's not. But again, like most businesses, we don't get the opportunity to dictate where they are. And we had a really unique opportunity to do that here. And we lost it because it took too long. And I'm a firm believer, and that's what it was. We had too many meetings, too many discussions. And I say that knowing that one of the things that we often take a lot of flack for on city council is that people feel like we're not transparent. There were, at least 10 opportunities for the public to come and have a discussion about what they thought about that. And the raw truth is very few people came ever. And, at some point you've got to make a decision. And while the city continued to wait, the township stepped in and they took an opportunity and they said, hey, we're going to do it just like they did Walmart. And it's still in this community. And now we have no say of where it's going to be. And at the end of the day, the people who didn't want a dispensary are still getting one.
Right.
And the city's not benefiting
because
from
originally it was going to be put right over there by Aldi and the strip mall here in the city of Circleville, which would have been all the way out there. and
not walkable.
not walkable
Yeah.
across 23.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're going to get less problems with kids, even though they have a pretty good rule on access. And it's going to get put into probably the Walmart shopping center.
That's where I think it'll go.
So it's
For
still
those
in
of you who
Circleville.
don't know when Katie said about what happened with Walmart, there was an instance with Walmart years ago when Walmart was moving to where it's at now, where Royal King was. Or is, and then there was something with the city, and Walmart decided to annex themselves out of the city, so the city of Circleville gets no income tax from Walmart. We've lost all that money. The township gets all that money. And now, due to Circleville City Council dragging their ass, for lack of a better word, and then putting their personal opinions ahead of the what's best for the city, the township is also going to get that money, which is going to make Circleville Township a pretty...
Yeah, they have
Give
like
them a beautiful
2 miles
cushion.
worth of road.
Right. They got all this money for...
They should be flush.
Yeah.
Well, last year they started a
We need somebody from the township to come on the show.
they started a part-time fire department, which they desperately needed because it was all volunteer. So that helped them out. And the Circleville Township, the Pickaway Township, they help us a lot on mutual aid calls and stuff like that. A lot of those accidents that happen on 23, you always find, not only Circleville, but you always find, both kind of out there in those areas. So thank you for that. So that's a good part, and that's a good partnership and stuff like that. I do agree with that. But the funny thing about it, and what blows my mind, it doesn't even matter where you sit on the fence with this one.
It was coming
It's
regardless.
literally on the opposite side of the street, and it's actually more in Circleville, in my personal opinion, than it was before.
We're going to
Yeah.
stop
We'll
it
see where it
here,
comes.
but we're not going to stop it on the other side of the street where it's allowed.
Well, you can't.
It's but you have the opportunity to have it on your side of the street and make the money, but you decided not to.
Well, and I think that's the frustration that I have because, and I know kind of where you stood on the levy, but the safety levy was really important to me, and that was something that I put tons of time in, and a lot of people worked really hard to get that to pass and educate the community, and I feel like we did that very well. And it's still, and I also would be remiss to say, I think that the police department especially, but also the fire department, has done a very, very good job trying to be a good steward of those funds since they got them.
Right, but that levy wasn't for the police department; it was for the roads and
It was
for the
for
fire
fire,
department.
correct?
Right,
Yeah, but
right.
but the police department, I think, as we know, has struggled over the last couple of years. The levy was not for them, and in the absence of that, they still have really, I would say, completely transformed the culture of that department.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really exciting. So it's frustrating that something that happened that was an opportunity for us almost to say thank you, which I know sounds weird, but to say thank you to the voters, like, hey, we took this seriously and we're going to try to drive down your cost as much as we can. It's really frustrating that we had the opportunity to do that and didn't.
Sad.
Yeah, it is
It's
sad.
sad. It's very sad. Very sad.
So get your marijuana in Circleville
Well,
Township.
but honestly, I think that's my frustration too. It's like nobody was telling you had to go in there. You never even had to breach the door.
Sure.
So I think that was my frustration too, even if you were morally against it. And honestly, I respect that. And, for one of the council people, he said from the very beginning that he was against it. Morally, he was against it. And while I appreciate that he stood strong the entire time, because that isn't always the case, I just think it got very gray and it became this very moral issue, which it really never should have set out to be that.
I said once before, and I'll say it again on the show, where I think that, in my opinion, once again, I think that it boils down to people may not have wanted to have their family laundry aired. Where somebody in their family smokes weed and goes to dispensaries, but doesn't want their kids or their nephew or whoever to see them like, hey, Ma, I seen Uncle so-and-so coming out of the dispensary this morning. And not have that all aired out there, which I understand, but also it was going to happen whichever side of the street it's on regardless.
Yeah, and I remember, so my dad was mayor of Circleville in the late 80s, and I remember he told me years ago when I floated the idea that I wanted to run for city council to him, I remember he said right away, like, you'll hate it. And literally in all the years, I'm 40 years old, my dad passed away last year, in 39 years, he never once told me, you'll hate anything or you shouldn't do anything until it came to that. And I was like, wow, why do you think that? And he said, there's too much bureaucracy, it takes too long, and you just can't please everybody. And I remember he asked me, I asked him, what do you mean by that? And he told me when he was mayor, the night he won election, he got a call from a constituent complaining about something. So he wasn't even in office. He was 2 months away from office, got a call that night, and he said his last night of being mayor, he got his last call.
Wow.
So you think it's like you're never going to please the whole population.
Right.
And, you know, with mayor, even especially when my dad was mayor, his salary was $12,000. But even now, despite what, you know, I think some of our keyboard warriors think, council makes like $5,000 to be on city council. Right. We have tons of meetings. There's tons of obligations to go to. Nobody is running for city council for the money. Nobody. Right. Nobody's doing that.
No. Nobody's even really running for city council. Let's put it out
there.
Like,
yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because sometimes you see people say vote them out and stuff like that. But some of these people, like Mr. Keller, has been on council for like 25 years. And a lot of times he's ran unopposed.
So next year will be my 10th year. So it's been my 5th term, and I have only been opposed twice. And a lot of times it's been, you know, there's been 4 of us running and 3 of us are getting a spot. So even opposed, you know, in that regard. So it's very uncommon to be opposed. And to be honest with you, it's like I would love to be opposed. I would love to have a discussion with somebody because I certainly don't think that I'm doing it all right or that I know everything. One of the things I love about, you know, we kind of sometimes say like, oh, this person comes to council quite a bit. I honestly love when people come to council because it's like they care enough to say something, where I want to have somebody who comes and cares enough to say like, hey, I have a problem with this. I love when they come with a solution, which doesn't always happen, but I would much rather that than, you know, get on social media and complain about X, Y, and Z. And it's like, but you don't come and you're not part of the process. And despite what I think a lot of people say, it's like people who are doing that typically are only doing it because they want to serve the community in some capacity.
Right.
And it's like, let's do this and make our community better versus, you know, get on and say mean things about people or, you know, that you think they have these intentions. It's like, trust me, nobody's coming to meetings and serving in that way for $5,000 a year. No. They're just not doing that.
No. I'm one of those people that come to city council when I have something to say. And usually I do create, if I have a problem, I come with some sort of a solution to
at least an idea.
Right, an idea of something, and I know that some people cringe when I come in there sometimes.
I don't.
I'm like, oh, Richie's here.
I always want everybody.
I know you see a smile on your face. I'm like,
yeah, like what's he upset about? I like when you fly in hot. Like I'm like, ooh, he was watching from home and came in. Like he is hot. He's hot about something. So.
Yard sales.
Yeah, that's another one that's been on me.
Why
lately.
are you guys being the Gestapos? I'm just kidding.
Man, I don't know. So that to me though is an example. When it was first explained to me, I see something to it. There is something that we have in this community, a very small handful of people that are, I would say, maybe running businesses out of their driveway. And that is a problem. It has been problematic for neighbors and it's created some safety issues. And there's absolutely been some issues that need addressed. I think we took a very small problem and made it a very large, huge government overreach. To try
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, to try to manage something that doesn't really need managed.
You said that really, really well, because I think that, like you said before and what other people have told me, you know, you guys, the city of Circleville wants something on the books so we can stop that kind of situation where people are running businesses out of their driveways and causing problems for their neighbors. Totally get that.
Yep. Yeah, I do.
I totally get that. But the other side of that, you know, limiting people that haven't caused any problems to one,
which is the vast majority.
Right. No, I yard sale all the time. There's yard selling in this area is amazing. It really is.
Yeah, we spoke on it for like 30 minutes.
Yeah. Right. But, you know,
that was episode 20, in case you care.
But limiting people to one yard sale every 2 months and stuff. And I was told, quote unquote, it wasn't going to be really policed. Still, you know, you never know.
That's even worse, to be honest with you. Like,
I hate it when people say that to me.
I think that's even worse. And that was...
Then why do it?
Right. And my attitude were 2 things. One, I think it's a government overreach in terms of this is not something we should be monitoring. Second, my question was on council floor, it was actually committee floor, was how are we going to monitor it? And the response, because I do not think that this is a police issue unless it's a safety issue. The last thing I want is, you know, Jane Doe calling in their neighbor because she's had 2 yard sales in 2 consecutive months or whatever. And the response that I got was that it is not a police issue and they need to call the service department.
Well, what's the problem with that?
The service department's closed on the weekends. So, you know, what if they're going to wait till Monday and then how are you going to prove it? And it just becomes this thing where it's like, I would like to see the service department, which I think they do an excellent job. I think they're one of the best departments in the city. I would rather them be putting their resources and efforts toward things that are going to benefit the whole versus a couple of people who might be violating a yard sale ordinance.
Right.
Also interesting, like I said, 10 years next year, I'll be with my 10th year. It is the only topic ever that I didn't have somebody reach out to me that was pro and against it. I only had people reach out that were against it. I did not have anyone.
I haven't heard anybody that was pro.
I can't see how this would be a pro issue, except if you're the neighbor of somebody who is having.
Well, interestingly, one of the people that I would say is a big offender of it, one of his neighbors, now one of his is not, but the other neighbor that he has couldn't care less. And I mean, he said that publicly. So I think you have to consider really what is the root of the issue and how can we address that versus make all these rules and regulations that are, one, hard to enforce, and two, what's the purpose of them. So that came to council tonight as well. It was actually at council last week, and it got a lot of backlash. And so before it even took a vote tonight, they decided to take it back to committee, which basically means they know it wasn't going to pass.
And you got heated last week
about it.
I did
get heated. But, here's what I got heated about. And I think people don't understand this. What I got heated about last week was not that people were voting against the marijuana and not that people were voting for the yard sale. What I got heated about last week was that 3 of our fellow council people would not vote to allow the legislative process to happen. And that is what I don't understand. That is why we are all there. The process is it goes to committee, you bring it to council, and everybody gets the opportunity to vote. When they say they won't put it forward to allow a vote, I don't get that. That's what democracy is rooted upon. And you were elected to vote yes or no. And there have been many times in my time that it's hard. It's hard to go up there in front of people who are in the audience. It's hard to do it on TV. It's hard to do it when you're going to have to face somebody at church next week. But that's what you were elected to do. And if you don't have the courage to go up there and say, I'm going to let this process go and I'm going to let the cards fall where they may, it's not for you. You shouldn't be up there. And so they voted down to not even allow the vote to happen. And so we voted again tonight. And it was it went exactly how we all knew it was going to go. So it's just a complete waste of time. And I think it absolutely highlights what happened with the marijuana thing. We let those things happen and it just goes on and on and on. And then weeks pass by and then Circleville Township swoops in and they make a deal. And it's a lesson that we have had the opportunity to learn many, many times. And unfortunately, I'm surprised every time that we let the opportunity pass us by.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm surprised you're surprised.
Well, I want so much more. I mean, it's just, it's just frustrating to me that people don't have the courage to say, I'm not for it. And even for the council person who said from the very onset.
Or even the courage that they are for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like draw a line in the sand and stand on it.
It's for me.
Stop jumping back and forth depending on who you're talking to.
Yep.
I mean, and that's I've noticed that from several council members.
Yeah, but I will say on the flip side of it, the other thing that I've noticed throughout my time, which is probably my biggest pet peeve, is when people say, I'm not support or I am support, and that's their narrative throughout the entire process. And then when the rubber meets the road and they have to vote, boy, they'll change right in the moment. And I don't get that at all. We years ago when we talked about the county peace app, that was a big thing where it was people had extremely strong views on that.
That was
they had strong views the whole time. And when the vote happened and they were the last vote and they knew they were going to lose because they were going to be the only person that voted yes, they voted no right on the spot. And it was boy, I've never been as surprised to hear that go down. Because again, my thing is, if you're going to, put your stake in the sand, good for you, but do it all the way.
Right.
Stand for it all the way.
Right.
And it's amazing
Even
to
if
me
you're that one vote
won't.
that says no or says yes.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Show that you will stand on that
Yep.
hill.
My thing is that's what you were voted. That was what people voted you to do. And people didn't vote for your beliefs. They voted that you would try your best to decide what was best for the group as a whole.
Right, for the city.
Yeah.
I remember that so much. I'm reminiscing about that because former Sheriff Radcliffe had come in there and he got heated on it because the city of Circleville had asked for him to come in and give numbers and stuff like that. And then the city of Circleville was kind of grilling, the council members were grilling him. And he's like, look, we were just asked for this. Yeah. And he was mad. I remember that.
But I will say, one of my other big memories of city council, my time on city council, was when we had a company come and they put a resolution before council that basically said that council would vote no on any solar panel project that came to the city. And first of all, to say that you would vote no on any project as a blanket to me is laughable, but also, in my opinion, a government overreach. But also, how could you my attitude was, this is not the place for this. This is not a function of city council. It was very evident to me that this was like, you're in the wrong spot. And quickly I learned that, my fellow council people did not feel that way. And that was probably the fullest I've ever seen council chambers in terms of people who came who were against it. And, I felt very strongly that it was not something that council should vote on. And I don't think it's my place to tell you what you should do with your farmland or whatever you're building, your farmland. And, so I voted no. I was one of only 2 council people that voted no. And the following Sunday, I was at church, and a lady who I have gone to church with my entire life came up to me, and she grabbed my forearm and she said, I thought I knew you better than that. And she was absolutely disgusted that I voted for it. And she lives in, on some significant farmland out in the county. And really, ever since then, she basically has completely avoided me at church, and we have no relationship. And, while it's unfortunate, that stuff does happen. And there's some fallout for that. But
Right.
It goes kind of back to what my dad said, where it's like, you're not going to go into politics, especially in a small town like Circleville, and please everybody.
Right.
So if you think that's going to happen, or you think you have the ability for that, you're in the wrong spot.
Right.
So
Speaking about pushback,
Yeah.
you got some pushback online recently. Just
Jeremy, narrow it down, buddy.
Let's talk
about this.
Well, hold
Bed
on.
tax.
Why are we going to
Yeah.
even to address that side? Let's just talk about the bed tax.
let's talk about the bed tax.
But I would, if I can say one thing, because he opens up the jar.
Sure.
So
I want to open the jar. It's
I
fine.
will tell you, I think that is what, as the older I get, the more disgusted I get with, like, honestly, humanity in that way. Where people take this platform on social media to go on and to say things about people, about their physical appearance, about, their kids, about their jobs. And they make these assumptions and they say these things. And it's like, you are discouraging people who are doing their damnedest to serve by being cruel. Right. And it's like, I look at my daughter who's 7, and I look at how adults behave. And
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, like, how are these adults teaching friends of my kid, and it's like, how are you going to ask your kid to be better when people behave like that and they think that's acceptable behavior?
Right.
And I think that is what literally as humanity we've lost, where it's like, you have an opportunity to have good, like, discourse and have a conversation, and nobody does that. They make assumptions. They say things that are cruel. That, it's like, I had somebody write a letter about me a letter to the editor about a political sign that was in my yard. I've never spoken to the woman in my entire life. Never.
She knew where you lived.
Yeah, she did.
It's like telephone tough guys. Now we have keyboard tough guys that are just disrespectful, cruel, and like, people just need to get smacked in the mouth again these days.
Yeah.
But you can't, because we have this government overreach.
But no, I mean, the bed tax, which was what it was about today, which was a very small snippet of a much larger discussion that they did for clicks, but that aside. The bed tax. So
Love it.
Bed tax is another thing that's up right now in city council. So bed tax is a tax that is charged in hotels, Airbnb, short-term rentals, things like that. So the city gets a percentage of it, and then we give a percentage of it to the Visitors Bureau. And obviously their whole function is to promote tourism within Pickaway County. And so we have had some trouble in the city with some owners of short-term rentals just not paying it, feeling like they don't need to, and they're above that. It's not a suggestion. It's an ordinance. They have to pay it. And they just don't. And the city has, I would say, done a very poor job enforcing it for the owners of short-term rentals. And as a result of that, other short-term rental owners who were paying it are now not paying it because they know that the city is not uniformly, enforcing it. So they've kind of stopped paying it. In the interim, we have the Visitors Bureau, who's trying really hard to promote tourism and do a lot of things on a very small budget. And they have come to council and asked not only for us to enforce it uniformly so they can get additional funds, but also for the city to forfeit some of the percentage that they keep. And so by ORC, what the city keeps goes into the general fund, which the city can decide how to spend that based on the needs that they have. And they are asking for some of those funds to go directly to them. So that discussion came just this week. And, it's definitely gotten some pushback from council. So the conversation's not finished. It will go to council next week. But I was surprised there was more pushback on it than I thought there would be. So there's that. But it's really 2 separate issues. Is the city going to forfeit some of the money that they receive to give to an organization that does what they do, which is promote tourism? And the other piece of the discussion is, are we going to enforce those who should be paying it who don't. And that was really where what Jeremy alluded to, the kind of Heath on social media, because my attitude is it is a law. It's not a suggestion.
Can you
And also, can I jump in here real quick?
Can you explain to the people out there the difference between the two branches? We have the administration and then we have city council.
Yeah.
So it's two separate things. The city council, if I'm correct, sets the ordinances, makes the rules, and also controls the purse strings.
Correct.
And the administration follows and enforces the rules set forth by city council.
Right. And so obviously the budget that we adopt is heavily, it's with their input. I mean, it's all of the departments coming together saying what they need to support their different efforts. And then there are some other things like the mayor can spend up to $10,000 per situation within a budget without the approval of city council. So anything above 10,000 has to get the approval of city council.
So in other words, when things aren't happening and things aren't getting enforced, it's not city council's fault.
Correct.
It's the administration's fault for not enforcing rules and regulations and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think, with this specific thing, one of the questions became, well, how do we enforce it? How do we go after it? How do you identify them? Because in fairness, I think that is part of the discussion. Like, how do you really find who has a short-term rental? And, the auditor made a comment yesterday that if you go on, like, for example, Airbnb's website and you type in Circleville, today there may be 4, but next week there may be 8. So how do you figure out, who really has them? How are you renting them? And so the issue that we have right now is one of the short-term rental owners who owns essentially a motel. He insists that it does not qualify as a short-term rental and that people stay more than 30 days at a time. And another owner of another short-term rental came in and said, like, I can prove that's not the case. And they found some other research that indicates that's not the case. And the owner basically said, like, I'm not paying it. And the city basically said, okay. And so for years he hasn't paid it. And then recently we've had other owners say, I'm not paying it because you're not enforcing it. And I just think, so my comment, which was blown horribly out of proportion yesterday, was the auditor made a comment that I do not believe is factually accurate. And not that he made it maliciously, but I don't believe that all the facts were brought together. That he felt like the city was only losing like $2,000 by not enforcing it. And number one, I don't care if it's $2 or $2,000.
Income's an income.
It's income. And the second thing is you don't decide not to enforce laws because it doesn't benefit you. And I think the second that the city starts doing that, that's a very, very scary place to be. And so my comment was, it doesn't matter what it costs to enforce it. You have to enforce it, no matter the cost. And so, and I still believe that. It's very expensive to put police officers on the road and their cruisers and outfit them and all of those things. But we still do it because there needs to be, peace in the kingdom.
Right.
And so I think that's really my frustration. If it shouldn't have been an ordinance, then why was it ever an ordinance? And this specifically, I believe, is set by the ORC. So I don't even know that this is even something that the city could choose not to do. I think this is specifically through the ORC, and the city has an obligation to collect it. And it's very simple. So, we have also rules levels of government that allow that to happen. We have a city law director. We have the means to have those people gone after to make sure, not that they're penalized, but that they play by the rules.
Right.
So, and I think that's my other frustration too. He is able to have a competitive advantage to rent his Airbnbs because he's not paying that. And there are other people in this community that have businesses and are trying to, be competitive. And it's difficult to do that when you're not charging because you're not paying it.
You were going to say something, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. We'll just move on.
Wow.
Must not have been that.
That must have hurt. I see you wearing a T-shirt over there. What are you wearing?
Uh-oh.
You already did that.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, remember I said
No, that was off air.
Gotcha.
But thanks.
Yeah.
What are you wearing?
It says go outside. It says worst case scenario, bears could kill you.
Worst case scenario, a bear can kill you.
And I brought it up because
Or a truck.
Ross County this week they had a car crash with a bear. Sometimes you hit deer.
A bear was driving?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
Bear was in the road and somebody hit it.
Is it okay?
No, it died.
Oh.
It's dead.
So really the worst case is you could kill a bear.
Yeah. So he killed the bear. He didn't die.
I mean, bears are pretty big animals. I mean, you could probably get one into your windshield. That would probably be the worst case scenario.
What always scared me? The concept of hitting like a moose.
Mm-hmm. That kills a lot of people.
Have you ran into
down,
have you
man.
ran into many mooses here in
Not in
Circleville?
Pickaway County, but have you ever seen a moose? They are
Not in
big
person,
animals, man.
but yes.
You're in trouble if you hit a moose.
There's a couple news stories in Maine
You're in
where
trouble.
semi-truck drivers got killed by moose.
Yeah.
Really?
Semi-truck.
Really?
Because the moose are so far up, the weight of the body of the moose is so high, and the legs, that they just roll up onto a hood and just crush.
Really? Of tractor trailers?
Oh,
Truck
yeah.
drivers?
Tractor trailers.
Ugly visible.
Yeah, a couple of them.
Oof.
Not very many, of course, but it's kind of a weird
That's-
situation. But cars and stuff like that kill people in Maine all the time.
Way to change the vibe of this podcast.
That's
Yeah,
crazy,
we're
isn't it?
downhill, man.
But anyway, the bear died. But
Aw.
what it brings up, and last week there was a video that popped up in the western part of Pickaway County that there was a bear on the roads up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, out there by Orion area.
So are we getting a lot of bears in the area all of a sudden?
So this is the time where Mama Bear had babies, of course, and now those babies are being kicked out of their den, and then male bears and stuff they seek out new territory because bears hold a certain territory, like a good 20-30 miles of territory, and so the baby male bears or whatever, they have to go past that. So that's how they get across Ohio. Yeah. And more populations of bears are happening in southern Ohio and stuff, and now they're spreading into Pickaway County and Ross County and such. So, yep, lots of bears. Gonna see bears coming into our trash, maybe stuff like that. It's gonna happen. Bears will get attracted to trash. They'll get into trash, things like that.
I'll tell you another thing that won't happen. Circleville citywide trash pickup.
Yeah. You think
I tried to float that once. Woo!
You think the raccoons will be bad?
Yeah.
We'll get what's his name to get the bears.
Yeah.
Why were people against that?
Oh man, I was amazed by that. I thought, oh yeah, we'll pass this.
Oh, you're talking about single hauler?
Yeah.
I'm
that
totally against
died.
single hauler.
It died.
We can have that discussion.
Why? Why are you
I
against
get
it?
I get that there's that you can make it cheaper possibly to have a single hauler.
Or
But
you
once
can-
you push
or
out
you can raise it.
But once you push out
indefinitely.
all the competition and you have a single hauler, all of a sudden it seems like rates start climbing up. And then there's no competition.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't disagree with that. I do think that trash is a really interesting industry and that I feel like it on its own with even multiple haulers, it climbs. It gets so aggressive. And if as you know, my husband, who believes very strongly in trash, and like making sure that he knows the best hauler in Pickaway County. If you ask people like, oh, who do you have? And they're like, oh, I have Rumpke or whatever. If I have Rumpke and you have Rumpke, we could be paying tons, like a huge, vast difference in what we charge. And I think that's kind of on the flip side. That's the problem with it, there's really no monitoring
It's
of
that game. I think cable companies do the same thing.
Oh, yeah,
and
for
they
sure.
have a customer for a little bit of time. They kind of beat up that price, but then they're offering the cheaper price for the new customers. And these guys get down here. And you have to almost call and complain, and then all of a sudden they'll bring you down.
But
I
I don't really think that you see that much anymore. I think you used to be able to call and say, hey, like my neighbor's got it for this, or I'm going to leave, and they would give you this competitive price. And I think now they're just kind of like, okay, see you, bye.
Yeah.
So it's interesting just how that's evolved. But yeah, Circleville does not want a single hauler.
Yeah, and another problem I have with single hauler is, big company versus, small mom and pops, as long as they're doing it right. We have some
And that's
that are
gotten
kind of
better.
questionable, but we have
It's
some that are
better.
really good mom and pops
Yeah.
trash guys.
Yep.
And I love to support that.
Yeah.
And
No, I
that's
don't
where my
support that.
argument is. I totally get your side of that too, but that's my argument.
I don't
with
even
that.
know that I'm honestly like I'm not going to die on the hill by any means, but
Sure.
I think there's some positives to it. I mean, it's like I think if you could streamline the days that people do it and things like that, I think there are some positives to it. But boy, that did not float.
Yeah.
That was not even.
Because you could even talk about electric too. You could bring in electric as what do they call that? A conglomerate? What is that called when they bring in the electric
Co-op.
co-op? The
Conglomerate.
No. They bring in the electric for one price, and
Yeah.
everybody gets on it, and they offer a cheaper price for the city. I think.
Oh, you're talking about what Jesse was talking about.
Yeah, Asheville has one. I think.
That's part of that thing with the data center that's going to come in.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, but I think that's interesting because we have a
It's
couple.
before the meter or something like that. It was something that had to do
No,
with
that's something different.
Oh, that was something different.
Yeah, that's something different. That's how electric companies are. I mean, that's how data centers are powering their data centers.
Gotcha.
But we have some rentals, and we occasionally will get a tenant who came to the city from another area, and they're always surprised that we don't have city trash. Like they're surprised that that's not included.
Well, unless you can get the city, if you can get the single hauler to also plow the streets when the snow comes,
Which would be awesome.
that would be the win-win. Then people could be like, oh look, my streets are clear, and they can't complain about the city not
Hey,
doing it.
let's talk about that. I don't know how you could have this. You can complain at all about what the city did this year. When
I
it
think
came
they
to-
did a great job.
They did an amazing job.
They did.
Really, we had some
did.
really unprecedented weather, and I think they did an amazing job.
I actually agree with that. And in my neighborhood, which was very notorious for, them just plowing it down the middle of the road and just throwing and only having like 4 feet in the middle.
Yeah,
Did a very, very good job in our neighborhood.
they worked hard.
I would love to float an idea.
Give it to me. Tell me.
Come up with some sort of ordinance, and I don't know how to word it or anything like that, for the downtown business district, like our downtown business area, where sometime after the snow stops, for business owners or property owners to shovel from their
they pick up
building
their
to the
snow.
street, into the street, and then the city come and take all the snow away from the downtown. This way the downtown is parkable, walkable, and whatnot, and we don't have the snow and the sludge and the wetness in everybody's building, and it makes the downtown look more inviting even during the winter if the city can just remove 6 blocks.
How do you deal with people who are parked on the road when it
You
happens?
make it the downtown area, no parking in the downtown during snow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Or
I don't hate it.
your car needs to be moved by the time that is set forth that the property owners have to shovel it out into the street.
Yeah, I was surprised when we had another discussion.
Or you
years
buried
ago
a car
on
in.
council.
No.
Well, that happened though. That happened. You saw that.
Right.
But I was surprised how many downtown apartments there are that don't have parking off street, and how many
Correct.
people really rely on that parking.
Right. There is a lot.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
A lot.
See, I've learned a lot on council too. I don't just piss everybody off, Jeremy.
I never said that.
Right at him.
Hold on. I started off this podcast giving you a great review.
Actually, Richie started it off with a positive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
Strasser was another one I really liked on council because she was hardcore.
Who?
So
Julie
she's
Strasser.
yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
not the same person, not the same personality whatsoever. I just like some of her personality. I like that
Yeah.
how she
had
could
strong
really
opinions,
get
yeah.
her point across in a professional manner, and make a vote, based upon what she thought everybody needed.
Yeah.
I like that.
Do you have anything else besides a dead bear?
No, I think we're out of time.
No, we got a couple of minutes for a couple of weekend review things.
You want something else?
Yeah, we need some. I mean, it is the show.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Like, what happened out there?
Yeah. So,
Do you want to talk about why Richie doesn't serve tuna salad at Richie's?
Look, my
like
biggest
life's
problem
mystery.
with Richie right now is he toted this large football size
Hey,
sandwich
Stop.
and never put it
The
on the
shirts
menu.
are being made.
So
The shirts are being
because
made.
Richie doesn't serve tuna salad, I had to have tuna salad from a competitor today, and
How was it?
we took it back. We literally took it back, and
Seriously?
I
You've
told
never
Colin-
took back my tuna
So
salad.
I opened it and I was like, oh, and Colin was like, wow, we're gonna take that back, and I'm like, no, don't worry about it, I'll just eat it, and he was like, no, we're taking it back, and half of it wasn't on there, and it was just really disappointing, and I thought, if I would have gotten this from Richie's, it would have been delicious.
Why don't you serve the tuna salad anymore?
Exactly.
It was.
I've never even had the tuna salad there.
It's exceptional.
The chicken salad's pretty good.
Yeah, and it is good. But it wasn't like the tuna salad. One time Richie also served a sandwich that was on a donut, which I never had, but Colin had. Because occasionally Colin gets lucky and Richie will call him and say, like, hey, I made this sandwich and I want you to come try it.
He used to do that with me. He hasn't done it in a while.
I don't think he's ever done it with me, not one time. Never. And so Colin gets all the benefits, and he tried this sandwich, and literally, like, the bun was a Lindsay's donut.
Glazed
And,
Lindsay's.
and honestly, like, there's
that sounds,
nothing better.
That sounds
than
like a lot
glazed
of
Lindsay
calories.
donut.
Is what that sounds like.
It did, but it did look good. I don't even remember what the actual sandwich was.
I don't remember either. I'm sure it's somewhere on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
On the deli's Facebook page.
Can I tell you one of my favorite Richie stories? This is a true story.
Go ahead.
Oh, God.
So
don't
I
even
walked
wanna know
into
what this
Richie's
is.
one time, like on a Saturday, and he was busy. And for those of you who, have been in the restaurant industry, like he was getting his ass kicked and he was working hard and doing all this stuff. And I'm just kind of like sitting back because I'm like, I'm going to wait for this all to, level out. And so everybody finally kind of leaves. And so I sit down and, I was with somebody, Colin and I were there, and this couple comes in, and Richie had been so busy. All the tables are dirty. He's busy, and it was evident. And this couple came in, and Richie was like, "Give me a second, and I'll clean your table off." And do you remember this now? Do you know where it's going?
Nope. Nope.
So that's the best part. And these two guys were like, "Oh, it's cool. Like we'll clean off our own table. It's okay." And they go over and they start like brushing off the crumbs on the floor to this table to be nice to Richie. And Richie lost his mind. He was like, "Would I come in your house and throw your trash on the floor?" And it was like the epitome of like perfect Richie, where it was like so honest and like brutally honest. And they were caught so off guard, you could tell they'd probably never been in there, and they just were like, okay. And they waited patiently until Richie came over and cleaned the table, and then they sat down and had.
Did you push the crumbs on the floor?
They had
No!
Richie food. No, he cleaned it up.
Do you do that in your own house? That's my question to you. Like if you,
It
if
matters
you
if I'm going to sweep afterwards.
You're gonna sweep. Why would you even do that? Because by sweeping the crumbs off the table onto the floor, crumbs are gonna scatter everywhere in a crack somewhere. You want bugs in your house? I'm good. I don't.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think it was a life lesson. I think he taught him a life lesson that day. And they came and they ate and they loved it, and it was perfect.
Right. Richie's the only guy that I know can close up on a random Tuesday or Wednesday where he's supposed to be open and say, "Oh, I'm going to go shoot a movie," or blah, 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 like that. The next day, people are literally waiting to get in there.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like they don't care.
We've got somebody that works at Four Jack. He doesn't even live in Circleville, and he loves Richie's. He's like a regular.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
But
you.
despite all that, we can't get the tuna salad back.
No. You should start a Bring Tuna Back campaign.
I tried, and he
shirts.
one time said he'd sell it to me, but I had to buy like 20 pounds of it. Like, what am I going to do with 20 pounds of tuna salad?
What am I gonna do?
Was it not a good seller?
It had its moments, but COVID really affected
Everything.
tuna.
God, why is everybody's excuse COVID?
Well,
Like,
here's
oh,
the
back in the day, COVID. COVID was 6 years ago.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. So I used to be able to easily get the large cans of tuna, and because my tuna is so good, it's a certain kind of brand and kind of tuna that I was able to get into a large can, and then I couldn't, and then nobody was carrying this tuna. I eventually was able to find it on Amazon to have them ship it to me, but it was like 4 times the price I was paying. And then I couldn't get it, and I can't get the kind that makes the perfect tuna that tastes delicious, and it's like I'm not going to make a subpar tuna.
So now I have to settle for subpar tuna at other places that don't make it right. That's really sad.
Just makes you appreciate what you had.
True, it does. Now it's gone.
Is there anything else out there going on with Katie? Any future things? Any things with council? Do you see yourself? And you don't have to answer. Do you see yourself moving more into any other positions in politics?
Oh, interesting. I don't discount anything. There's some things I would discount, but yeah, I've learned never to say no. I just, I think I have a unique ability to, despite pissing people off,
But
I typically can bring people to it.
But you need that.
Yeah,
I think you need that in politics, is to be able to say things instead of just trying to appease both sides by telling one side what they want to hear and then telling the other side what they want to hear, and just say it.
Yeah,
and I admire that about you, because you do that. You just
thank you.
You just say it.
I think the problem though is like another unique thing about being on city council is it is a part-time position. You know that clearly going into it, and while it is a commitment, it is part-time, and you can easily have another full-time job and do that. To be mayor, the mayor is technically a part-time position, which I think is ridiculous.
Should be full-time.
It should absolutely be full-time. And, I think that's one of the reasons that we've struggled. And we've had some really, really good mayors. So this comment isn't about any of them. But it's like there is a reality to, if it's a full-time position and you can pay it competitively to what it should be paid, you're likely going to get somebody who's coming in with real city management experience or business experience or whatever it is. And I think that's something that sometimes people have forgotten. Like, yes, it's a civil, it's a service to the community. However, it is a business. You're running a multi-million-dollar business. And not everybody's cut out to do that.
Right.
And not everybody's cut out to, lead 90 people and be in charge of 90 people. And that's a task. And, I think that Circleville has been a little bit behind in the times in that. And that it's a part-time position. Now, it pays pretty well for a part-time position. But, it's not, you're not going to get a pool of person who's going to quit their job, who might be qualified to do it or might have experience running a multi-million-dollar business and get paid what it gets paid to do it. So I think that's been unfortunate. And we tried, with the charter to make a city manager position out of it, and that failed miserably. So until I think the community changes their opinion on a city manager,
or we make the position full-time.
I think so. I mean,
and raise the pay.
Yeah. I mean, you're just not going to get, and again, I think we've had a lot of really good people who really love Circleville. And I think that carries you a really far way. But at some point, it has to be about your ability to run a business and to manage people and to do the hard stuff and understand that you're going to upset people. And that's just part of it. But you have to compensate people for that. Right. So
I have one more question. I'm going to extend this a little bit longer. Do you mind? Do I have your approval?
Why do you need my approval?
The pool.
Oh,
the Circleville
God.
City Pool.
So, my first time in council chambers outside of when I was a little kid and would hang out in there.
Hold on. For the record, I did resign, I think as a park board member.
Yes.
So I will put it out there. I'm no longer one of the park board commissioners.
Yes. Yeah. So,
What are your memories as a kid?
Yeah, other than when I was a kid and my dad was mayor and I would play in council chambers, I never really stepped foot in council chambers again until I was probably 25. And the reason I did that was to basically beg city council to not close the city pool. And I felt very strongly that our community should have a city pool and that we should do everything we could to keep the pool afloat, and that, council needed to do that. And they did for a couple of years, and, eventually it closed. And, it took me growing up and getting older to realize that, unfortunately, city pools are really hard to maintain and they're really hard to sustain. And if you look around, in the state of Ohio and even across the country, a lot of municipalities have gotten away from city pools because of that. The city of Circleville currently doesn't even have a Parks and Rec director. So who's going to run the pool?
Right.
I would love to have a city pool, and I want to be very clear about that. I would, if there was a city pool and you had to have a membership or whatever to obviously sustain it, I would absolutely have a membership.
I think Mia would make you have a membership.
She'd love the pool. She would love a pool.
She'd live at
She'd
that
She would
demand
live
the
in a
membership.
pool. Yes, she would. So we would have one.
She'd make the pool cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think that's the problem I have with it is in the plan that the city currently has, it's about a $9 million lift, and that's based on today's money. And they were really, really fortunate that the mayor and worked with Brian Stewart, and they were able to get money appropriated in the state budget for the pool. They asked for $5 million, which would have been more than half of the ask, and they got $2 million. And now $2 million was the biggest allocation of the state budget, single allocation. So that's awesome. And they should be really proud of that. But $2 million is a far cry from $9 million. And so how are you going to get the other $7 million?
Ooh, a dispensary.
That would have helped. But there is a very preliminary plan, and it's in the very preliminary stages. And they are hoping to have an allocation next year in the state budget. And, let's just say they get another $2 million, which I think is probably not likely given that they got it this year and it was the largest allocation. Even if they were, that's only $4 million. That's half. So where are you going to come up with the other $5 million? And, I think they have some numbers about what it takes to run a pool and the cost to sustain it. I know you have been a supporter of the attitude of like a 365-day a year pool where it would be closed. That's not the plan.
Retractable dome, and this way you can do swim. You draw more people to the community from the outside of the community. Have swim meets, swim teams. Do something that'll help bring in money to the city. But
this is probably like a 90 to 120 day a year, lift for $9 million.
If at most with the weather.
Right. And I think that's my thing is like, what population of people is it really going to serve? And then again, how are you going to come up with the rest of it? And they have done a very good job. And Hannah Wynn, the planner at the city, did an excellent job putting together this very detailed kind of update to all the parks. And that was included in it. And one of the things they have is they have about, I think it's like $1.5 million that is getting ready to expire in loans for capital purchases that have been purchased over the last couple of years. And it concerns me that we're relying on the expiration of capital purchases and the money that it took to make capital purchases to run this business that we have when the business isn't going away. And so you're always going to have capital purchases,
Right.
and you're going to have this constant flow of capital purchases and needs.
And if you take that money away, how are you going to pay for
How are you going to have this capital needs?
Right.
Right. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, that 1.5 can't even be considered. And there's definitely a fundraising effort that they, want to do, but you're talking about raising funds, $7 million in fundraising. And that's not totally fair, because they're not saying 7 million, but it's a huge lift. And, it's going to take time. I've been a part of several capital campaigns and fundraising, and they take time. And one, in a small community, you have to look at who is trying to raise funds and for what, because they're all going to compete against each other. So are we going to say, like, hey, our project is more important than anybody else's, and we're going to take $7 million out of this community in funds over others? So I have a little bit, that kind of sticks with me a little bit. And then how long is that going to take? Because again, the $9 million is based on today's dollar. And so
Could be 12 in 3 years.
it will be 12 in 3 years. And I think that's the thing. And I think unfortunately the cart was put a little bit before the horse, and, they made this public announcement, which was great. And I understand they were excited. But unfortunately, I think probably, as Jeremy knows, people don't always read the content of the article. They read the comments and they read the headline. And, a lot of people think that pool is going to be here in 2027, and it's not. And so I think people are going to say, well, hey, where's this pool? And it's just, we're so early in the preliminary stages to see, can we even get to the 9 million? And oh, by the way, we haven't even discussed how we're going to maintain it. And that's really my concern, is if you can get to this $9 million, which I think is going to be hard to obtain, but let's say you get there, how are you going to sustain it? Because if we put a pool together and it's not 100% and you can't sustain it, then why did you even raise the funds? And I know that they want the city to take out some loans to do it. And, as finance chair, I'm not in support of that if you can't sell me how you're going to sustain this business. Because, again, it's a business. That's what it is.
How are you going to pay the loans?
So how are you going to pay the loans? How are you going to pay up? The pool is not going to be a moneymaker.
No.
And it's okay, I think, to have something that benefits the community that isn't a moneymaker. But when it is that much of a money suck, there has to be a way to cover it. And I have not heard a plan presented where I feel like it's sustainable yet. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they can come up with a plan, and I hope we, with city council as well, can try to help play a role in that. But I just think a lot of excitement's been built around something that doesn't have a plan yet.
But people want it. People want the pool. People wanted the pool. Putting it up to. I understand what you're saying, but people did want the pool. Hopefully they support it.
But, Jeremy, my other comment is, I agree people want it, but I think it was maybe even on your article, I read some of the comments, and there were so many comments like, well, they're probably going to charge, and I can't believe they're going to charge.
Sure.
And it's like, what are you talking about?
That's fair.
Like, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, Ross County has a pool, and
Right.
they charge, and
Yeah.
they have a great pool.
Right.
But they charge for parties, and they charge for all that stuff. And yeah, absolutely.
But I think
because you
that's-
have to maintain the pool.
Well, but you have to support it. And I think sometimes, and it's not just Circleville, it's all communities, but, that's something that we hear sometimes. People come to city council and they'll complain about, there's nothing for kids to do, and there's no bowling alley, and there's no these
But there was
things.
bowling alleys.
Exactly. And it's like, well, one unfortunately burned down, but the other one closed. Well, why did it close?
All right.
I bet it didn't close because they had so much business they didn't know what to do with themselves. And, number one, when people always bring that to city council, it's like, that is not a function of city council. We don't establish businesses. But I think that's what people forget. It's like, you can say all day long that you want a steakhouse, but then when you get on social media and you bitch and moan because they don't have the steak you want, or it's expensive because it's good steak or whatever, it's very difficult to please the general population and then have them stand behind, a business when it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, a lot of people experience that with COVID, and they experience it as more competition comes into the community. And it's like, how do you really show up as a consumer in a small community? And how do you benefit, how do you try to benefit the people that you want to stick around? And I don't think that we always do a great job of that.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think
agree.
people wanted
Very well
Texas
said.
Roadhouse, and I did that story, and I called Texas Roadhouse, and I pushed, and it took me like over a month to get them on the phone, and they said to me, we have a Texas Roadhouse in Chillicothe. We have one in Grove City, and we have one in Lancaster. And if you draw a 20-mile radius around that area, we are in your backyard.
Yeah.
That's what they said. And they said until you get bigger footprint, that was what they said.
But I think that's the problem, where it's like, okay, well, I want a bigger footprint. What does that mean? Well, that means I have to support a safety levy because I need more safety forces. And that means that I'm going to have to understand that the school might eventually come because the school gets outrun. And that's part of growth, and people don't understand that you can't have all these nice things and not pay for it.
Right.
We don't live in a world that allows that. And you can absolutely live in a community that doesn't want to grow. However, Circleville is really we're in an interesting position where it's like we have the opportunity and all the growth coming from the north, where we're so well positioned to accept, an economic benefit like that to grow. But, then all of a sudden people are like, well, I don't want a housing development, or I don't want to live near an apartment complex. And, you want to get me going on something, get me going on an apartment complex and what people say about that. But I think that's what is really unfortunate, where, suddenly it's change and people don't like change. Even though they don't know what it's going to look like, or they don't know what the impact is. They create this story and this narrative of what it's going to do to them. And at the end of the day, it becomes nothing about Circleville and progress and making it better for your community. It becomes about me. And until people decide that it's not just about you, I don't know how you overcome some of those obstacles, because to your point, if what you want is Texas Roadhouse, then you're going to need more rooftops. But honestly, I would argue, like, why do you need Texas Roadhouse when you've got Black Diamond and you have Watt Street and you have opportunities like that? And it's like, are you going to those places and supporting those places?
I agree. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Yeah, and when it comes to apartments, I bought a duplex simply for my kids because there wasn't available apartment complexes that were affordable.
Yeah, there's not, and it's like, if people, one of the apartment complexes that's slated to come is, there's a very similar, I think it's the same developer in the South Bloomfield area. And I don't know if you've ever driven back there, but they're very nice apartments. And
the ones that are by the school?
Yeah.
Yep.
And at what, when did we become a society that suddenly it's bad if you live in an apartment? I mean, give me a break. And, people suddenly were like, well, I don't want to live near an apartment. And I don't, I didn't buy this house to have an apartment near me.
But the problem is who lives in apartments? The kids that moves out of your kids that moves out of your house lives in an apartment.
Or single mothers live in an apartment.
Single mothers,
or single people.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, that's what I don't understand.
Professionals.
It's, like, it's suddenly this negative connotation to live in an apartment.
Right.
And I don't understand that. And not everybody is going to be in a place where they either want to live in a house where they have to deal with the maintenance and all of that. Maybe they want to live in an apartment where somebody else takes care of it. But the thing that always amazes me is when people come in and they're like, I bought this house because there was this empty land behind me. Well, what did you think was going to happen with that empty land? And, the thing I always ask people was, well, was it for sale? Yes. Well, you had every opportunity to buy it.
And have you seen some of these apartment complexes?
They're nice.
Gyms, pools.
They're nice. Yeah, yeah, they can have their pool.
They can have their pool.
Yeah. But that's, the one that I'm specifically talking about, it's single family homes and it's these apartments. And I just, if you don't allow people to be accepting of other things.
Is that the Atwater build you're talking about?
What? Yeah. That's what I guess I just
build?
don't understand.
Atwater build, the one that's right there behind Ollie's.
Ollie's, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, it's like, I get it. I don't live there. I don't live in that neighborhood. So, as one of my favorite constituents says, I shouldn't get to vote on it because I live in the South End, which I proudly live in the South End with Richie.
Yes.
But, it's
so
like,
soon. No.
Yeah, exactly. But there's only so many vacant, land. There's only so much vacant land in Circleville. And so, if we're going to develop it and it's done thoughtfully and it's done, based on the need, that's what you got to do. That's what's going to put rooftops here. So. But boy, people don't like that. They don't like apartments.
Nope.
No.
But it's change. I really believe deep down it's change. It's not necessarily people don't like apartments.
I think it's change too. I agree. I agree with exactly what you said. I think it's change. I think I moved to Circleville about 12 years ago. I moved from Grove City.
That's it? Just 12 years ago?
Yeah. Grove
It's
City.
been in our life 12 years.
Yeah.
Aww.
I moved from Grove City, and Grove City had built up, and I moved south. I moved into Commercial Point at first, but
really?
Commercial Point was too small.
I didn't know these things.
And then I bought a house here in Circleville. And Circleville is exactly what you're saying. I lived on a dead end road called Victor Drive here in Circleville.
Yep.
And it was a dead end road until about 2 years ago. And so for a good portion of my life, and I lived on a dead end road, and there was a cornfield right side. One house from me was corn. And now there's a road, and there's houses built on my street, and there's constant noise from houses being built on my street right now. And it's a thoroughfare through there now because the road is connected. Victor Drive is connected to Victor Drive, which was on the other side of the cornfield. And but I knew that eventually was going to happen.
Or that it could.
Or that
it could happen.
That it could happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
it is what it is.
Yeah, and people just don't have that perspective when they move. Like, because again, they're thinking about what is my situation and my house and my family, and it's like, well, these things around you are gonna, they're gonna they could potentially look different someday.
Right. But the houses that are being built on my road are selling for a good amount of money.
Yeah,
They're going up
absolutely.
really high, so that's definitely going to keep my value really high on my house.
I also think they did a really good job tying those neighborhoods together. I don't think there's like a hard break where you can be like, oh, these are where the neighborhoods came together. I think it looks natural, as natural. As
I wish they had a larger. When you go into Heritage Ponds, there's a larger road. You know, what do they call that? They call that like a where they dump traffic into, and they're a little bit wider roads. I wish they had one of those for the other side, because now we're kind of Heritage Ponds is kind of stuck. You know, and you have the traffic coming from the opposite side. You know, they come through because that's the only way to get to 23.
Yeah.
So they drive through the neighborhood. You know,
So
and the same
what are
thing.
they doing? They're driving through the neighborhood and turning left onto Walnut Creek Pike.
Yeah,
And
they
then
can
going
turn
out.
left in Walnut Creek Pike. You can cut through a couple neighborhoods right there to get to North Court Street, or they can go north on Walnut Creek Pike and hit the roundabout and go down Bell Station Road, but get to 23
Yeah.
that way, because that's their only choice. Because before they had to go all the way up and around.
Okay.
And your streets are narrower than
Yeah,
than the new
it's
ones.
pretty narrow, and people park on
They
the
park on both
roads.
sides, yeah.
So it kind of
Kinda
gets
makes it like a
little-
one-way street.
Yeah, it's kind of ugly. And then the Atwater one, and I said something in council about it, was the Atwater one connects, and the apartment complex, they're gonna come up, and they're gonna come through our neighborhood also, because they won't be able to get onto Walnut Creek Pike, and they're not going to go all the way up and around. So they'll come through too. So that makes that neighborhood a little bit of a thoroughfare.
I am curious about the supposed development that is being discussed right on Bell Station. I'm curious to see how that conversation evolves, because I do have concerns about.
I don't think a lot of people know about that one yet. And by the way, guys, you'll see that story on Side of Post here this week.
Yeah, and so I don't.
And
know
what
that
story is this? Tell me. Fill me in. I don't know nothing about
There's
this.
a
another
development
housing
planning right there on Bell Station and Walnut Creek Pike, right before you get underneath the underpass, the railroad underpass.
Okay.
Okay, right there to the right where the new trampoline park is.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so both sides of the road,
Okay.
the farmland right there. Originally, it's going to be, and the interesting about that one is the north side of Bell Station Road is Taze Valley School Districts.
Oh, where that
And-
train track is? The north side is Taze Valley?
Yeah, on Bell Station Road, the north side of Bell Station Road is
Taze Valley.
Taze Valley School Districts,
Okay.
and the south side is Circleville. So when that development happens, when they build on that side, which I don't think is in the plans first, I think the plans are in the south side
Circleville South.
first. It'll be Circleville City Schools, which Circleville can handle it. You know, of all the school districts in the area, I think Circleville is in position to handle more kids and more rooftops. Unlike Taze Valley School District is really struggling. We'll see if this money comes through for the development.
I can't
But
wait to,
I think
I
it'll
can't
be
wait to read the
interesting.
story on Saturday Post.
Yeah. The only thing that I question on that one is I think you could get a real traffic congestion issue getting on 23 right
Sure.
there. So I'm curious to just see what the plan is.
Sure,
like
that's
the
all. That's a
infrastructure
very
plan that is
hard
there for that.
intersection to kind of merge.
That's
And
been a
then-
hard intersection.
And then
for a
coming
while.
off 23, coming southbound and making that turn, that could build congestion all the way up as well.
Well, there's a dirt road that kind of runs right there too that you could probably take.
Well, I think there's some opportunity to do things there.
I think so too.
And I think even in back to more south, where Walnut Creek comes out at North Court, you know, it's like we've talked about a roundabout or whatever. I think there's some definitely potentials there, but I think again, as you see the development pop up in that area, you're going to have to see some infrastructure changes.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right. Well, we've gone past our hour.
We have. Well, Katie, I want to thank you for coming on and joining us.
Well, I mean, my husband's on 3 times, and I've only been on once, so it was noted. No, I appreciate it, and honestly, I think what you guys are doing is great. So
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me on.
This is the Week in Review with Richie and
Jeremy.
episode 23. You could also follow us and watch us and listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Amazon, YouTube, and
Flounder.
Round Town Radio. Thanks for tuning in, guys.